Alright, so we've got a Constitution. Check. We've got a Bill of Rights. Check. But what do these rights actually guarantee? Find out now. Welcome to Learning Stuff with Sprayberry, where we make social studies fun, easy, and educational. Today, we're going to take a dive into the Bill of Rights. These first 10 changes to the Constitution were designed to make it more protective for citizens. And it does for the most part. Let's see how. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Our First Amendment is broken down into 5 smaller parts. We're going to look at each clause and see if we can figure out why it's included. First, no established religion. So you remember the Pilgrims, the Puritans, the Quakers, all the religious groups that moved here? They moved here for religious freedom. We're not about to abandon those ideas just because we've created our own government. So the first part of it, Congress shall not establish a religion, means we're never going to have a unified religion in the United States. And we're not going to restrict your right to worship the way you want to. So that's the First Amendment's first clause. Second part of the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. People have the natural right to develop their own ideas and share them with others. These ideas might not be welcome or desired, but they're still valid. This is a direct response into the ways in which England tried to silence colonists over their anger about their treatment. Third clause of the First Amendment, the freedom of the press. Media is a requirement for a well-informed and politically aware electorate. People need to know what's going on in the world in order to make efficient decisions about it. In this vein, the government will not limit the press. Again, going back to England, they tried to silence news organizations in order to keep word and support of the revolution from spreading. Our government says we're not going to do this. Fourth clause of the First Amendment. People have the right to gather. It's hard to exchange ideas through written print alone. So we need to have the right to get together and share our ideas. England tried to take this away when they passed the Riot Act. This Riot Act kept people from getting together in groups to protest. You couldn't have more than a few people get together, otherwise it would be broken up by the local law. The fifth clause of the First Amendment is the right to petition your government for a redress of grievances. You have the right to take your problems directly to the government. Once the government gets these, they may or may not do anything about it. But if they don't do anything, they risk not being re-elected the next term. So they have to balance what they think is right versus their ability to get re-elected. We see that a lot today. A lot of politicians fight and say one thing, then do something else when it comes time for elections. Those last 4 clauses, the freedom of speech, press, petition, and assembly, they gather together to demonstrate the way a democratic government should work. You have the right to come up with an idea, share that idea to others, print that idea in the media so that it gets around, take that idea to large groups who may or may not agree with you. If they agree that it's a change that needs to be made, you can petition the government so that they can make those changes. If they choose not to make those changes, they might face the wrath of the individuals who elected them. It's the way a democracy should work. The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. No amendment in modern times is as argued over as this one. I'm going to try to put it in terms as simple as possible in order to avoid the huge comment wars down below. When the Constitution was written, the Army was formed by volunteers, meaning to have a well-armed army, you had to have a well-armed civilian group. So if you wanted your army to have good weaponry, the individual citizens had to have good weaponry. This whole thing was included because during the Revolutionary War, England tried to take the weapons of farmers in the colonies. Because if you don't have a weapon, you can't fight back. This amendment was written to guarantee that you couldn't have your weapons taken away. However, you will notice nowhere in the amendment does it say what kind of gun or how many guns you can have. theoretically, you could place limits on the Second Amendment. Congress could decide that they want to limit the number of guns you have or the kinds of guns you have without infringing on your right to actually own guns. Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in times of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. You remember the Quartering Act? Yeah, don't do that. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, house, paper, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Basically, people have the right to keep their stuff private. During the Revolution, England would have soldiers quartered in people's homes, and they would search these homes for things that might be treasonous or in support of the rebellion. This amendment requires that the government have a warrant, a document that tells you what you're looking for, where you're looking for it, and whether or not you can take that document. These warrants are only issued by judges, and they can only be issued if the searching agency has enough evidence to prove that they need to search for something. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when the actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be derived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. What this does is guarantee that you get a jury in a civilian felony case, meaning that your guilt or innocence will be determined by a jury of your peers, people who should represent the average American citizen. You also can't be charged with the exact same crime twice. That's the double jeopardy clause. So, if you committed a burglary and you were found innocent, they can't put you back on trial for the exact same burglary. Now, let's say that you committed a burglary and you were found innocent. And you committed a second burglary and you did the exact same things, you broke into the same person's house, you tried to take the same thing. That is a different crime and you can be tried for that. So you can have multiple charges in the same category, but not the exact same crime. Additionally, you can't be forced to testify against yourself. They can't put you on the stand and make you confess to something. You have the right not to confess to a thing you did. You can plead the fifth. Finally, the federal government can't take your life, as in the death penalty, your liberty, time in prison, or property, your stuff, without a court case. There is an exception to the taking your stuff thing, though. The government can take your stuff if it's needed for public use, but they have to offer you fair compensation for it, meaning they have to pay you the fair value of whatever it is they're taking, your home, your land, whatever it may be. That was only the first 5 in the Bill of Rights. Because these are the ones that are directly affecting most Americans, I wanted to spend a little bit more time this week going over those things. Check back in next week as we dive into the next 5 in the Bill of Rights. So what do you think about the first 5 amendments? Which of these amendments do you consider the most important so far? Is there one that seems to stand out as the shining light that we all need to pay attention to? Let me know down in the comments below. If you learned anything or liked the video, hit like. If you want to see more social studies content, hit subscribe. If you want to be notified every time I drop a video, hit the bell icon so you receive a notification when a new video hits. Thanks for watching.